Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jackie Boris. I'm Director of the Maryland WIC program, and I want to welcome you to the Maryland WIC program's webinar about our conversion to eWIC. On our panel today, we'll have Mara Shea, the Vendor Unit Chief for the WIC program, Chris Haar, our IT unit staff, Edie Osterman, Chad Main, and Doug Rice from Solutran, and Ellen Thompson from Maximus. But before I turn over today's presentation to Mara Shea, we've been asked by the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to remind attendees at any and all presentations or webinars about the Zika virus. So I'd like to briefly share with you some of the key points that the Health Department would like you to know. We'll get that slide up for you in just a second. Okay. Some of the main points about Zika is that, first of all, the symptoms of Zika are mild, so you may not even know if you have the virus, but the effects of Zika during pregnancy can be extremely serious. The virus can cause birth defects in babies of mothers who have the virus. The Zika virus is spread by the bite of a mosquito, but it can also be sexually transmitted by an infected person. Now, there have been no cases of Zika in Maryland that have been directly caused by a mosquito, but there have been some cases in people who have traveled to where the mosquito is more prevalent, to areas of either the United States or other countries. And it has also been spread in Maryland through sexual transmission. But the main takeaway of this information is to get rid of any breeding areas for mosquitoes, such as standing water in buckets, any planters that you have in your yard, any toys that collect water, bird baths, and other places such as that. When you're outside, use insect repellent. Try to wear long pants and long sleeves as much as possible. And if you open the windows in your house, make sure your screens are in good condition. This is a picture of the mosquito that carries the Zika virus. And for more information, we've asked you to please visit the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene's website. And if you have any questions that aren't answered by the information that are on that website, you can send your questions to zika.questions@maryland.gov. So now I'd like to turn the program over to Mara Shea, the Maryland WIC program's Vendor Unit Chief.
Okay. Thanks, Jackie. Hello, my name is Mara Shea. I'm the Chief of Vendor Operations and Program Compliance for the Maryland WIC program, and I'll be taking you through the webinar as we move through here. So, today's objectives are basically to go over the eWIC basic information, who's involved with eWIC, and what to expect as we move towards eWIC implementation. So we've been planning and doing a lot of things on our end. I'm sure you are all anxious to hear what's happening. So we're just going to give you a little bit of information today, and what we're going to do is address any questions at the end of the webinar. So I encourage you to go ahead and type your questions in as we run through the slides, so that way it stays fresh in your mind as far as a question you wanted to ask, and then we'll address everything at the end of the presentation. And we do have Solutran's representatives to answer any questions you have for Solutran or any questions you have for us here at the state office. So today's agenda is essentially going over the introductions, which Jackie handled for us. Thank you, Jackie. What is eWIC, the benefits of eWIC, eWIC implementation schedule, and how we're going to go ahead and implement throughout the state of Maryland, going over the approved product list, which is otherwise known as the APL, going over stand-aside versus the integrated equipment, processing eWIC, vendor outreach, what Solutran's been doing with our vendors thus far, and our eWIC updates. So currently our partners here, our eWIC processor that we've contracted with is Solutran EBT Services, and our quality assurance contract has been awarded to Maximus, and both those partners have been key in getting us prepared for this eWIC project as we move through. So Solutran has processed eWIC transactions and are currently processing our our WIC transactions currently, and they've been processing paper WIC checks for Maryland for over 10 years and has experience in many other states as well. And currently they're working with Montana and Texas on their eWIC projects. Maximus is our quality assurance contractor, and Maximus is helping to ensure our eWIC project stays on track and runs smoothly. So Maximus has worked with many states on both their planning documents and eWIC full implementation, and so their vast experience in this has really been valuable as we move through the project. So currently, what is eWIC? eWIC is an electronic benefits issuance system for WIC. So it's a system that will replace current paper checks with an electronic process for participants to purchase approved items in their stores. So essentially we're going to switch out the checks for a plastic card similar to any other EBT or credit card that they can use at your stores. So this is a list of WIC terminology. It's words that I'm going to currently use throughout the webinar. It just can use as a reference guide. So essentially we'll learn a little bit more about the APL, which is the approved product list, and of course we already covered eWIC, maximum allowable price, what is online WIC, and your PIN and UPC. And I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with these terms. So the benefits of eWIC: faster time in the lane. eWIC system determines authorized items using a UPC data. Signature verification is no longer required. So essentially the customer will put in a PIN at the end of the transaction. So basically you won't have to have to compare the identification folder. So it'll be a little bit easier, a little bit quicker, and more streamlined. So there will be no checks and no need to separate items by checks, and it'll be one eWIC transaction for the entire purchase. So payment and reconciliation, no more rejected checks or rejected check fees. I'm sure you're all happy about that. That can get overwhelming for a lot of you. Price adjustments made at purchase and no trips to the bank. All transaction and payments will be made to your store electronically. So eWIC implementation schedule, you can see here, this is the map. And I'm sure you've probably seen this on our website, how we plan to roll out eWIC implementation. So a number of stamp-aside terminals. Hang on for a second. So we've chosen to do our pilot in Southern Maryland, which includes Charles and St. Mary's in Calvert County, and this was selected to allow for comprehensive planning and retailers to conclude holiday season at this time, which will be January. Each pilot is expected to last for 3 months, with statewide implementation scheduled to begin May 2017. Hopefully we'll be able to stay on track and start in the January timeframe. But based on this timeframe, we are expecting eWIC implementation to be fully rolled out by July 2017. And those stores may see checks all the way through the end of December. But the areas of Maryland where eWIC has been implemented will no longer issue paper checks. However, you will continue to see paper checks until all the WIC participants throughout the state have received their eWIC cards. We anticipate that all checks will be phased out out of Maryland by the end of 2017. So regardless of when or where eWIC has been introduced, all paper checks remain valid as long as the check has not expired and you have confirmed the identity of the participant by reviewing their WIC folder. So you must redeem their WIC check. The initial pilot location was selected because it means that the 4 criteria suggested by our eWIC processor, Solutran, was that the location is geographically isolated. All stores types, including commissaries, are located in this pilot location. The majority of Maryland corporate stores, such as Walmart and Giant, are also located in this pilot location, and the traveling distance from the state office was doable. So currently we're working on what we call the APL, which is Approved Product List. So the WIC program creates and maintains a list of these UPCs known as the Approved Product List, or the APL. So stores will download the APL to validate the WIC allowable food items during the WIC transaction. So I've had staff from our state office out in the field currently. We started in southern Maryland. We're building the APL. We're gathering UPCs, and we are going to make sure that we do get cover all of the stores, from your small store to your large store. And so your store may be contacted by our state office to schedule a scanning date in your store, but we are making sure that we check with them first before we go out to the store to make sure that it's not going to conflict with any other activities they have going on in the store. We're not requiring help from the store by any means, but we just want to make sure that we're not going to be in the way. So currently we do have vendor staff and nutritionists working on this project. So moving forward, once we compile the APL and maintaining the APL, the program must be notified about new products that could be added to the APL. So the program will provide instructions on how to submit these items to be added to the APL. So we're going to establish a process for which you can do this. We'll probably have forms we're going to have you upload to the website, but items must be submitted for review and must go through an approval process prior to being added to the APL. So the WIC program staff may visit stores periodically to collect UPC data for WIC allowable products once we've already established the APL, just to make sure that we're not missing any new items that are coming on the block or items that we missed altogether. So when we do implement eWIC or even the pilot and rollout areas, if there is not a product that's on the APL, the participant essentially can't get that product until it's been added to the approved product list. So at that time, we just encourage all stores to let us know if there's a missing product and they believe that it should be added to the APL. So it does make your job as a store and your cashiers a little bit easier, so that way you don't have to determine what is and what is not WIC approved. But I encourage your stores and your cashiers to still review the authorized foods list to ensure that they're aware of what is supposed to be approved, so that they can assist during the transaction to know exactly why a particular product is not scanning as WIC approved. So the two eWIC systems we have is what we call a stand-beside machine versus integrated. So stand-beside or standalone system is a POS equipment provided by the WIC program and is used next to an existing cash register. So it works independently from other store equipment and can be used only for eWIC transactions. So this is separate from any other stand-beside that you might have for SNAP. So if you do have that stand-beside for SNAP, you will have to have a stand-beside for eWIC as well. So most corporates have a integrated system, or even small chains, or maybe small chains that are even taking eWIC and other bordering states. An integrated system works within the store's existing POS system. Many commercial POS systems have already been modified to accept WIC, such as taking WIC in other eWIC states, such as Virginia. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Solutran at this point, and they're going to take you through the next few slides of our webinar on processing eWIC and what to expect as they've been contacting our vendors. Solutran?
Thanks, Maura. My name's Chad Main. I'm with Solutran, and we are part of my job is to work with the retailer outreach, for our Maryland and Montana projects. So your stores or a member of your chain may have been contacted probably within the last month by a member of Solutran staff to kind of get some initial information, and want to kind of give you a little bit of a background as why we're looking for that information, and kind of give you an overview of our eWIC processing solution. So essentially, as we were kind of talking about, the integrated stores that are processing today probably will at some point flow through Fiserv, which is a commercial gateway that is used by different third parties such as First Data, Vantif, and that is actually the commercial processor that we as Solutran are using to kind of acquire transactions and send them to our host system. So chances are, if you're using one of these commercial processors, such as the First Data, the Vantif, there's a good possibility that your existing system could be either is ready to do eWIC to Fiserv, or with minor modifications, can be used to process eWIC transactions. Kind of in getting ready for this, we've actually been reaching out to the different processors as well. So the First Data and the Vantifs to make sure that they're ready and they understand. Fiserv has actually also been doing outreach to different processors and larger retailer chains, letting them know this change is coming. So we feel like we've at least started some of the outreach, but I'm sure that there will be additional questions as they come up. When we, as we kind of get closer, we will ask different stores to work with their processors or us directly to certify their integrated solutions to the S3 system, which is the Solutran system, and we'll do that through Fiserv. Right now, we are talking about, we're working with Fiserv to get that scheduled for late summer. So the August timeframe is what we're kind of looking for at this point. Kind of where we're reaching out to merchants and retailers in Maryland over the last couple of weeks is to kind of collect information, basically kind of understand what the store setups are right now. What your feelings are. Kind of get the retailer's impression on WIC and what you've kind of got available at your location. Phone lines, internet connections that would be potentially available for stand-beside equipment, or what commercial processing systems you've got available. What's your cash register system? Just to kind of give us an idea of where you kind of fall. Are you potentially an integrated store versus somebody that's stand-beside? As we've been doing the outreach, we've been really looking to kind of talk to owners and managers, or if it's part of a chain, looking to get a corporate contact. And part of that is so we can collect email and contact information, so we can send out notifications about how the conversion is progressing as things come up. And it's an efficient way to kind of get notices out. One of the first things that we're planning to do is send out a vendor survey to the points of contact that we've already established. So this is really, the survey is going to be a SurveyMonkey, which is an online survey, just to kind of verify different information about the retail locations. Basically, make sure you've kind of got you've got phone line access, for the device, or again, who your commercial processor is. And a lot of this survey information that we're going to be gathered will kind of help us understand, kind of the makeup of the retailer population, and help us kind of make some decisions about how we move forward with the eWIC in Maryland. So we're really hoping for a strong response on these surveys to kind of help give us some information on how best we proceed. But we definitely want to get the feedback from the retailers, so we can help you identify what's right for your business. And I think those were my. The other thing that we've also kind of set up is as we've been doing outreach to locations, we have been talking about Solutran's eWIC help desk that we do have set up. So as questions come up, we do have this 800 number that can be is available between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern for additional information or questions as they come up. That's what we really want to do, is make sure that we've kind of got an open dialogue with the retailers to help you guys understand what's going on, and how eWIC is progressing in the state of Maryland. We're very excited to get this going, and so we hope you are as well.
Thanks, Chad.
Yep, no problem.
Great. So we're going to move on. And again, if anybody has questions for Solutran or the state office, to go ahead and type the question in. So again, Solutran will be here to answer any questions that you might have for them as well. Okay. So we've established a section of our Maryland WIC page for eWIC, so our vendors can hopefully get any answers that they need from the eWIC news part of the website. We'll be updating this periodically, but again, we're going to be continuing to send out information from our state office about any things we may need from the vendor, just making them aware of any progress that we're making towards the eWIC project. But this website you can find www.mdwic.org, and you can see there that I put a little pointer towards the eWIC, and that'll take you to the page that you see here. And right now we have eWIC news, and currently we're telling you that a little bit about the pilot area, the pilot rollout schedule, and today we've also posted to the website frequently asked questions. So hopefully those questions can answer a lot of your questions. But again, if you have any questions, you can contact Solutran in regards to processing or certification. So we have compiled, so our eWIC team has compiled the list of the FAQs, and they are answers to some common questions that we heard. Our quality assurance contractor, Ellen with Maximus, has also reviewed these because she does have a lot of experience with other eWIC and Solutran's input as well. So we're hoping that these questions do answer a lot of those questions that you do have, or the answers to questions that you may have going forward. But we are going to update those FAQs as we get more questions, either from Solutran or the state office. So we'll be updating those, and we'll find a way to make sure that you know that they are new questions if they do come up. Okay. So again, feel free to contact the state WIC office if you have any questions that wasn't answered by the information you find on the website, or again, anything that you may have on this webinar. It is being recorded. It will be posted shortly on our website. So those of you who are listening after the fact, not the live webinar, if you want to submit some questions to the state office, you can most certainly contact us or Solutran. So again, we're just asking for some questions. We do have some. Chris, our IT chief, will be helping me answer some of these questions that you may have. So please feel free to go ahead and type them in.
So the first question, this is Chris. So the first question is, what does price adjustment made at purchase mean? Right now we have not to exceed amounts for food items that the products are not supposed to be charged to WIC for anything above the not to exceed amount, or it may be bank rejected. And with eWIC, it works a little differently, and right now it's at the check level. All the not to exceed amounts for all the food items are added up for each check, and that becomes the check's not to exceed amount. With eWIC, each food item is going to have a not to exceed amount. But right now it's not going to be at the UPC level. It will be at the subcategory level of the product. For example, so a category will be milk, and a subcategory of milk would be whole milk. So whole milk will have a maximum price that can be charged for the gallons of whole milk, or half gallons, or quarts. And then also it'll be broken down. 2% milk will have a max price, etc. And that'll be done at the point of sale system at the cash register. So as after the WIC transaction is complete, the participant will approve the transaction. The WIC participant will approve the transaction, and the information will be sent to the eWIC server, which will report back to the store's point of sale system and notify the point of sale system of the amount that will be paid for each food item. If it is not the asking price that the store asked for the food item, it will be the adjusted price. The next question is, will vendors be allowed to roll out integrated eWIC programming to all stores statewide during the pilot? So what that's asking, we're going to have our pilot area in Southern Maryland, and if a store is in Southern Maryland and is in all other counties of Maryland, once that store point of sale system is certified by Maryland and the contractor and Fiserv, if that store system is certified and fully approved for that chain, can they then push that code to the rest of their point of sale system statewide, so that eWIC transactions can then occur throughout the state at all of that chain's stores? The answer is yes, with one caveat. We ask that if you do push code and update your point of sale system statewide to handle eWIC, that you also assure that your cashiers are trained. That will be one requirement. We do not want a participant with an eWIC card going to a store outside of a pilot or rollout area and not being able to, and the cashier not knowing what to do with that card. That would cause more confusion and problems. Next item, will you be sharing the APL as you build it so that retailers and brokers can review it to be sure products are added? This would be worthwhile in advance of your pilot. Once our APL is complete, we will share it. We're a bit apprehensive on giving it out prior to it being complete. We just want to make sure everything is on there and it's in the right format so that it's usable by the stores. But we will have it a bit. We're hoping November. We're shooting for November at the latest to be able to share that. The next question relates to the previous question. When will the APL be available for retailers to test and align shelf tags? We're hoping November. It'll be all set.
It'll be nice if we get it done sooner, but it's a lot of work.
We'll try.
We'll try.
Next question, do you have a date in mind for the January pilot? Large retailers go through an IT freeze time frame during the holidays and will not be able to do level 3 certification until after that freeze. So I believe that the level 3 certification being referred to is the actual certification at each individual store after the store system is fully certified and code is pushed down to individual store. Each store then needs to go through a final certification, which is basically running through a set of test scripts at a cash register to make sure that everything's working properly. The date in January, yeah, it's towards the end of January 27th, around that time frame is what we're shooting for. The next question is, will the survey be mailed to vendors or is it only available online? Doug, can you answer that?
Sure. What the thought will be is we will be mailing postcards to folks so they can fill it out online. The reason for the online survey is what we want to be able to do is collect the results in real time. If folks, we've got folks that have said they don't have email addresses, and so this can be filled out on a smartphone. And if people have difficulty doing with that, we can look to follow up with those, some of those individually.
Okay. Thank you. The next question, again for Solutran, is about the support number and asking if the support number is available 5 days a week or 7 days a week.
Actually, with a current phone number right now that it's available Monday through, people are answering the phone Monday through Friday. There is also the ability to leave messages, and then when not outside of the normal business hours, and then we can call you back if there are during regular hours normally. It will be once we kind of go live, and for other call center activities, those will be available 7 days a week.
Thank you. The next question is regarding the stand-beside terminals, and the question is there a cost to the stand-beside units? So for stores that are not able to integrate eWIC into their point-of-sale system, the state of Maryland will be providing at no cost to the retailer a stand-beside terminal that will be for eWIC only. Now, based on the number of cash registers in the store and the amount of redemptions that the store has and the amount of WIC redemptions that the store has, that will decide how many eWIC stand-beside terminals that will be available to that store. For a superstore or a supermarket, the quantity would be one terminal for each $11,000 in monthly WIC redemptions up to a maximum of 4. So only up to a maximum of 4 lanes will be provided the eWIC stand-beside terminal. And for the other vendors, the smaller vendors, it is one terminal for each $8,000 in monthly WIC redemptions up to a maximum of 4. And again, if the store only has 3 cash registers in their store, 2 cash registers, but does a lot of WIC business, $50,000 a month in WIC sales, but they only have two cash registers in their store, then only 2 stand-beside point-of-sale systems will be provided to that store. The other part of that is if a store has 8 lanes and Maryland will only provide up to 4 stand-beside terminals based upon the store's redemptions, if the store wants to get more equipment, more stand-beside terminals for their other lanes in their store, they can contact Solutran and work with them directly to get those other 4 lanes covered, or however many lanes they would like covered. The next question, can you explain what you meant by a scanning date in store?
I'm sorry, what was that?
A scanning date? About gathering the UPCs. That's what she's talking about. So in what Mara was referring to with the scanning date, nutritionists and vendor staff are currently going out to stores and scanning UPCs, and they're working with the stores to get permission to be in that store, and I believe that's what this was referring to. And so they will work with the store to come up with a date that the nutritionists and retail staff can enter that store with the UPC scanner and scan WIC allowable products in that specific store.
Essentially, this is Maura again. Essentially, we started in Southern Maryland, and right now we have plans to move up to Western Maryland and then over. But at this point, we may be jumping around, but we didn't want to go into a store until we spoke with the manager and made sure that they weren't doing any other audits in the store where we would be in the way, or any other kind of events that they were having at the store, to make sure we weren't conflicting with any of that. But we don't have an actual schedule and dates of what store we'll be in at when, only because we don't know how long it's going to take us to scan a store. So if we set up a time with a store and we weren't able to get there the next day because we had to go back to, say, like Giant or Walmart because we weren't able to finish, we will just let them know that we're going to push it back and just speak with the manager at that time to make sure that that new date would work. But we don't have an official schedule of where we're going to be and when, because we are trying to figure out what works best for the state staff and where we're going to be. So we are essentially have a somewhat plan, but we're skipping around, if that answers your question.
Thank you, Mara. And the next question, just to clarify, the state is planning on using online eWIC with a mag stripe. Yes, that is correct. Maryland is not using a smart card to implement eWIC. Maryland will be implementing eWIC with a mag stripe, or otherwise known as the online eWIC system. So most stores already have equipment that can scan the magnetic stripe of some sort of card, like a credit card or other card. The next item, are you able to tell us the IIN for Maryland eWIC cards? That's the issuer identification number, or sometimes called the BIN. We do have our BIN, but I don't have it memorized, so I don't have it with me. But yes, we can share that. We can put it on our website. We'll add that to the eWIC page on the Maryland WIC website. The next item, how will produce items be handled in the APL file? What items will need to be mapped in store to a generic PLU? That, right now we have all of the PLUs in the APL. We have all of the WIC allowable PLUs in the APL, not just the generic PLU. We are going to ask that stores map in their point-of-sale systems, map to the National UPC Database PLU. The next item, will our current processing service be able to obtain a standalone machine programmed for eWIC, or will we need to obtain the standalone machine from Fiserv? Doug, could you talk on that one?
Sure. The standalone machines, they'll actually be distributed by Solutran. If you're an integrated retailer, the transactions will flow from your commercial processor, be it Fiserv, Vantif, or over to Fiserv and then to us. So really the stand-beside devices will come from Solutran. If you're already an integrated retailer, that's where you'll kind of work with your processor to make sure that they can process through Fiserv. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Doug. The next item or next question: will manual entry be allowed with the eWIC card? There have been some problems in some other states with using the low coercivity cards when implementing their eWIC systems, and I know many, if not all, have switched over to the high coercivity cards. And Maryland, when we implement, we're jumping right in with the high coercivity cards to help prevent the manual entry being required if the card is not able to be read by the magstripe reader. But yes, we will allow the manual entry if the pan is unable to be read by the magstripe reader and if the card is damaged. The next item: would there only be WIC cards from now on versus checks? During the presentation, I know Mara had alluded to during the pilot and rollout, there will be both the eWIC cards and the checks. So in the pilot area, while the first pilot is going on, the clinics will start issuing the eWIC cards to the participants at the start of the pilot. But those participants there are still going to be participants out there with the checks. So any store that is in a pilot or rollout area that is accepting the eWIC cards will also be required to accept the WIC checks at the same time. And then we expect the checks to be fully spent by the end of 2017 so that it can be a full switch over to the eWIC by the end of 2017. The next question: how will we as a corporate chain obtain the APL list? Will there be an FTP, SFTP site for automated downloads? Chad, can you talk on that one?
Sure. Yeah, there will be an SFTP site that will be set up so retailers can download updated APL files.
Thank you. Yeah, the point-of-sale systems should be the eWIC point-of-sale. The point-of-sale systems, when they're certified for eWIC, will be programmed to automatically download that, hopefully daily. And also the stand-beside terminals will be programmed. I'm not sure if that's going to have to be a manual process.
No, it will be. It'll actually be. As changes occur, the pause. The devices will get notified that they need to download an updated APL.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. The next question: will we be getting equipment for eWIC? If we are, the equipment shown, the ones that what equipment will stores be getting? The picture during the presentation was not the actual equipment. We don't have a picture of the actual equipment yet for the stand-beside terminals. So, but yes, if your store does need eWIC stand-beside terminals, they will be provided. Next question: how will the customer know what they have on the eWIC card? When the participant leaves the clinic, they will leave with a printout, we call it a shopping list, a printout of all of their current and future months available benefits. And also the eWIC point of sale systems, how they work generally is after the participant swipes their card and enters their 4-digit PIN, the system prints a shopping list. And after the participant makes their purchase, at the end of the transaction, the point of sale system will print a remaining balance shopping list for the participant. So they're going to be asked to have that with them and keep those shopping lists. The question here is, will the test APL file be provided so retailers can proceed with testing and certification? Yes. For stores that are working to integrate their point-of-sale systems, a sample APL will be provided. Which one are we on? We just did that one.
Maybe you already answered it, but that's a good person.
The next question, will contact information be provided for CHAD or Solutran?
As far as, yeah, probably the best thing, the initial, that 800 number is the best initial contact point. I can provide my, and we've actually also got a email address. It is ebt@solutran.com. That's where we're kind of starting to be able to field questions from retailers and different groups. If they want to submit those there, we can get back to folks.
Chad, can you clarify the email address again? Is it EBT as in electronic benefits transfer?
That is correct.
Okay, can you repeat it again?
Sure. It's EBT@Solutran, SOLUTRAN.com.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Next question is, my store is located in Baltimore, downtown. You were saying that the preparation, like the APL, will be done by November, and after that we'll get the new eWIC system in July of 2017. Yes, that is correct. It'll probably be before July of 2017 that you'll be contacted for installation of the equipment, but yes, that is correct. And the next question, when is eWIC beginning in Baltimore? And I believe it is July. It's the last rollout area in July of 2017. The next question is regarding the APL and the state using the store-provided APL. So stores already flag items as WIC in their point-of-sale systems. And yes, we have been using these store APLs. Stores have been submitting their list of WIC-approved products to us. Thank you. The question is, I'm assuming the allotted amounts of food items will be loaded onto the card for the month or months, but how will purchases as far as quantities be handled? For example, if a customer would like to purchase 2 check items, how will this work? So there will not be any more checks for the participant. For a whole family, say there are 4 participants in one family, all of that family's benefits are going to be loaded onto one card and accessed with that one card. So when the participant swipes the card and enters their 4-digit PIN, the shopping list that prints out will be for that whole family for that month. Future months' benefits will not be available until their current months have expired. And then when that future date happens, when the next month's benefits are available, then they will become available on their first use date. Question is, will vendors be submitting national brands? I'm not sure. I guess maybe that's referring to the APL, and there will be national brands in the APL.
We're collecting everything from national brands to store brands because not everybody has a store brand, and so even for instance, a big store might not have a store brand in a certain category. Then they would have to be the national brand. So we are collecting every possibility. So essentially anything between store brand or national brand that could possibly be WIC approved will be uploaded to the APL.
The next question is, will customers need to separate transactions between WIC versus traditional purchases? We are going to ask that participants separate their WIC items, especially in the beginning. Separate their WIC items. Most point-of-sale systems, it's been a while, but most point-of-sale systems are still, even with eWIC, will require the items to be separated. Some point-of-sale systems will allow what they call a mixed basket, where the WIC items can be mixed in with the customer's regular purchases and those food items scanned, and then the order of precedence for payment would first be WIC. The WIC card would be scanned, and then it would remove the WIC items from the remaining balance that is owed. And the next form of payment required would be SNAP, and then that would remove those items. And then the final form of payment would be some other cash or TANF or some other remaining payment for the remaining balance.
Whatever you want to use, you don't have to use SNAP, but if you want to use SNAP or your own cash.
Right, but just with regard to mixed basket, it goes WIC, SNAP, and then anything else. But like I said, we are going to ask that participants separate their orders so that it's just easier, because if if something they purchased, doesn't come up as WIC that they thought was going to be paid for by WIC, then that'll be really difficult to figure out if the food items are all mixed together.
You have to dig through your basket to find out what's not WIC approved. And moving to eWIC and using the APL, sometimes you lose a lot of that knowledge at the cash register as far as your cashiers. So sometimes they're not really aware of what could possibly be WIC approved because they depend on the APL. That's why it's really important to still review the authorized foods list with your staff so they can field any of these issues at the register at the time of the transaction.
Okay, the next question is, will the customer have to buy a minimum of products? I believe what this is referring to is right now the participants have their WIC checks, and when they come in with a WIC check, they have to buy every food item on that particular WIC check, or they don't get it. There are no rain checks. They either buy it all now, or they don't. They just get what's available, or get what they get. With eWIC, they will be able to purchase one item. They do not have to purchase everything available at that moment. They can come in and buy a gallon of milk or a half gallon of milk or some bread. So no, there is no minimum that they have to purchase at one time. But their benefits will expire. So if they have remaining, say they have milk left in their balance for this month, that milk will have a last day to use. So once that last day to use is reached, that milk is not able to be purchased next month. They will have to tap into their next month's benefits. The question is, if there is a maximum of 4 stand-beside terminals, would we be allowed to have a WIC only now? I believe that's asking if you can have a WIC only lane in your store, and stores are not permitted to have WIC only lanes. In other states, how they handle it is if a store only has 1 or 2, say they have multiple lanes in their store, and they only have, they're only permitted 1 stand beside eWIC terminal, that lane of the store would be, generally they put up a sign saying it's a full service lane. They don't advertise that it is WIC, but they say full service. But for now, no, you are not permitted to restrict your WIC participants to particular lanes of your store. Next item, will all fresh produce and UPCs be included in the APL? Other eWIC states such as Ohio, Michigan, Delaware are not providing cash value voucher CVV UPC codes in the APL, causing the store to map all UPCs to a state-approved PLU. Like I touched on a little bit earlier, we will provide those, and we're going to ask that stores map to the national PLU. Next question, will you be having a yearly training seminar that will cover all of the updated eWIC info?
That'll be handled with annual vendor training that will be is scheduled in the summer, particularly August of every year. So at this training, we'll cover anything from eWIC updates to anything other, any other vendor-related topics that we need to cover for that year. So yes, it'll be covered at annual vendor training. You know, but at any time, if any of the vendors ever have any questions, you know, I'm always available more easily by email. But you can always contact me going forward. But yeah.
And I just received a tidbit of information. The BIN number or the IIN number that we will be using for our state is 610385. That is 610385. And we only have till noon, so we have about another 2 minutes. I will continue going through these questions, but for the remaining questions on here, we will post them on our website. The next question is, in addition to including the IFPS PLUs in the APL, will the generic 4469 be used also? Yes, we will also accept the 4469 PLU. Next question, follow-up question regarding the manual entry of the PAN number. Does the card need to be present to enter the PAN? And yes, the card definitely has to be present. The eWIC card from the participant definitely has to be present in order to conduct the transaction.
All right, that's all we have time for. As Chris said, we have until noon, but the remaining questions we will address in further FAQs on our website, and hopefully at that point we'll be able to answer all the questions you have. But again, if you do have any questions, you can also submit them to Chad's email address, and then if they can't answer anything, they can forward it to us. Again, thank you for attending the webinar, and hopefully we covered what you needed to know, and we look forward to moving the project through till January. So we're really excited. We hope you're excited. It's a lot of work, I'm sure, but I'm sure everybody's really excited to make things a little bit more simpler. So thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you in eWIC. Take care.